This episode is sponsored by Viva Rays, the only eyewear company that truly understands your biology. Viva Rays are advanced blue light glasses designed with circadian biology in mind. Unlike typical blue blockers, they filter light in harmony with your body's natural rhythms, helping you sleep deeper, feel more energized, and protect your long-term health. We love companies that support biology-backed wellness, and Viva Rays is leading the way. Use code Quantum Healthy at vivarays.com to save 15% and support your sleep, focus, and natural energy the way nature intended. Enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Quantum Healthy Podcast. I'm Andia, a licensed addiction counselor, and along with my co-host, Laura Kissman, a quantum nutritionist, we will be inviting expert scientists, clinicians, survivors, and thrivers to distill their pearls of wisdom attained from applying quantum biology to their fields of research and everyday lives. Our goal is to bring you easy to understand principles and practices about the study of light, water, and magnetism so you can take your health into your own hands. Welcome, everyone, to Quantum Healthy. Welcome, Lauren Bradley.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we're so excited to chat with you today. So, if you do not know who Laura Bradley is, she is a trailblazer in the wellness industry, committed to pioneering advancements in cutting edge science, and all of her work serves a future in which all natural and man-made ecosystems thrive. Her company, Béla Nektar, was the first luxury skincare line using beef tallow in her formulations, opening a window within the market that was just really dominated by plant-based formulations. And she has a wellness platform, Bella Gusta. She's a private health consultant focused on quantum mechanics and the science of nature's rhythms. She uses biomagnetism, a terrain restoration therapy operating at the quantum scale, addressing physical, emotional, and energetic dimensions using applied kinesiology or muscle testing. She taps into the body's innate intelligence to bring awareness to what is in need of transmuting and transforming. And her clients include celebrities and spiritual healers and business tycoons, as well as people just choosing to exit the confines of illness. Welcome to the podcast, Lauren. Why don't we start with how you got there? How you got to studying the biomagnetism, the quantum mechanics of all of this? What led you here?
Well, necessity is the mother of invention or the mother of, inspiration, I would say. In all my iterations of my life's work, it started out with fashion where I was like, I want that. I want that. And so I had to figure out how to make it and all aspects of that making process and studied the physicality of the architecture of creating what I wanted. And then as I was doing that, I became quite ill and it started spiraling and spiraling and spiraling into the place of like nobody could really figure it out. And so again, it wasn't my want, but it was my need. And I had to transform my career and start to look at all sorts of aspects of how one becomes well when they are extremely on the razor's edge of demise, and how to find true recuperation and transformation. And so I studied and I studied, and it was like my medical school, and I was my one of one. And the pass fail was pass, you live on, fail, you perish. So good luck. And so I pushed through and developed now what I call my 13 pillars to well living, because wellness isn't just one thing. And we're so trained from the medical industrial complex to say, I'm sick, I need to go get help, I need this one thing, and it should work. But we are multidimensional beings, and the illness is copied and pasted. Illness, dis-ease, whatever you want to say, not your original blueprint, is copy and pasted in all the different dimensions, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, genetic, so ancestral. And it's a yes and equation. So yeah, you got to fix the physical. Yes, you have to go do the emotional stuff. Yes, you have to have spiritual transformation. All of those things have to become woven together into the new tapestry of who you are, but it's kind of not even really a tapestry. It's like removing the yarn, removing the dissonance, removing all of the misperceptions, miscommunications, and like misidentifications of what you've metabolization. You know what I'm saying? Like how you metabolize oxygen, life, relationships, your your fuel systems, your mineral makeup, everything is metabolization, and so you kind of have to have almost a lobotomy from who got you sick in the first place and become a new person. So I like to say, and I know this is kooky and out there, but I am a walk-in. You know how people have those walk-ins and then, like in the woo community, they're like, oh, a spirit walked in and now took the place of that person. And it's called a walk-in. I am
Or
a
is it the same as
walk-in.
an entity?
Yeah, I'm a
Okay.
walk-in, but it's my high self that walked in.
Oh my
And I
God.
know that I am a walk-in, because I'm a different person than the girl that didn't have communication with her high self, didn't have that vertical integration. So,
Mhm.
yeah, we're all becoming walk-ins. I think that's kind of the ascension process or the becoming process or the healing process.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, that sounds something that you want to kind of strive for, a walk-in.
Yeah, well, your that voice that is the truth of like your originating self versus the voices that, you know, how do I say this? I remember the day, this is before I had symptoms, and I had like a looping thought of like, you're not pretty or you're not skinny enough or something like that. And I was like outside on my back patio, and I literally like stopped and I was like, who's talking? That's not me, but it sounds like you. And
Mm.
it masquerades as you. It could be a pathogen. It could be
You
a
know, you make
community
me think
pathogen.
of all of the irrational belief systems that are held in our subconscious. That is the software in the background that's
Yeah.
running. We're making important life decisions in our world based on this programming, and the
Yeah.
programming might not be serving us. So it's like stripping that back,
Yep.
and your actual true essence of yourself can walk in.
Yes.
And it's there, but it needs to like come forward.
Yes, and it might be wrong terminology because it doesn't actually walk in. I just use that kind of like tongue in cheek because the woo
Yeah.
community has that. It's more of a it shines forth, not comes in. It shines forth because if you're looking at it, could be like vertical integration where you think like, oh, my high self is up there at the top. No, it's in there at the center. And then so you tune into the center and it emanates out and all the other things and the programs that are kind of on top of you like I'm not pretty, I'm not skinny enough, that probably isn't even my program, that's a program that I inherited
Mm.
even, or it could even be something that I've been carrying around multiple iterations of myself, and but I never lose sight of the true inner originating self, and so it's like walking forth, not walking in, maybe is a better way
Yeah.
of describing it.
I kind of see that little analogy with, I'm the quantum nutritionist here, with food, with, you know, when you mentioned the pathogen as a possibility, and it's like
Mm.
if someone is, overgrown yeast, and the message you're hearing is, it sounds like your voice, like, you need the chocolate cake, you need the
Yep.
chocolate cake now. And it's like,
Yep.
and then like if you take a period where you can get control of your sugar, remove sugar from the diet, get everything all better balanced, I guess, then suddenly it's like you don't need the chocolate cake. You're good. You're
Yeah.
good. Eat the apple,
Yeah.
just a little bit different, but
Yeah. I animate everything and like turn it into a metaphor. So but this I don't think is a metaphor. I think this is actually true, at its core. You are the overarching consciousness, the governing essence. That's your originating self, right? The governing essence of the cosmobiology, the universe that is your biology, your it's not even just biology because it's multidimensional, right? So like you just said, Laura, you govern the yeast, right? You
yeah,
govern it, and when it governs you because you have a neighborhood or a part of the universe that's going bonkers and out of control and turning into a bad neighborhood, right? In your kingdom, which is it's your overarching consciousness that needs to be in control versus the yeast that's asking for the chocolate cake. Like that's not you. It's not you at all. It is an imbalance that is running the show versus the homeostasis and the governance of the entire being that is you, and your awareness and your consciousness and your awakenedness when it steps into understanding that it is the governor, then that control that the yeast have over you, like where you're just like, I just can't quit the cake. And it's like, yeah, because they can't quit the cake because they want the cake. They need the cake. That is what they use to thrive. But you are, you can create right relationship in the entire universe that is you.
by issuing a few orders, I guess, or just to
Or
those, yeah, to those
yeah, or
neighborhoods.
removing what creates dissonance that puts maybe the community of yeast
Right.
in the forefront because they're working like on frequency and on your emotions and sensations and your memories and the way in which you're perceiving and metabolizing all of your whole holographic reality, and it it happens instantly. Your emotions and sensations, if they're looping, if here, I'll give you a metaphor. If you how can we say this because so there's a reason why they're asking for cake, right? There's a reason, there's a dissonance that it's trying to solve. And
Right.
so solving that dissonance then quiets them down, and then and then it doesn't become a need that's solving something that you're because the body's really smart. And the cosmobiology of all of the sentient beings in your body, they're opportune, it's really opportunistic, and it wants to stay living. Every being wants to stay living, and then it thrives in frequency, energy, frequency, and vibration. So yeah, it becomes that whole kind of, how do you make a nice fish bowl? Sometimes you have to change the water, you have to change what's floating around, right? And
Right.
then they might not crave cake in a clean fish bowl when
Exactly.
you know
Change the
they're
terrain.
craving cake in the
Exactly.
dark because they're trying to compensate.
This term cosmobiology, I've not heard it before. Can you explain where did you get that term? Is that commonly
I
used, or is that
mean,
is that a
I think,
Lauren?
there is terminology, but I'm looking at like your inner world, like nothing's happening outside of you, even though it is, because we're kind of in this dream, right? Where reality is kind of holographically projecting all around us, but it really is coming in from us. And so I see myself and every body as like a giant cosmos. So if you think about levels of scale where you have, atoms, molecules, cells, tissue, organ, system, then you
Yep.
can go up into, a solar system, then you can go
Right.
out into a galaxy, you go all the way up and then all the way down to like quarks and below, right? It's like a hall of fractals. And so cosmobiology, that you are all of that. And that's kind of why I use that terminology of like, you are all of that. There's an entire cosmos inside of you. Like your tissue is there's your tissue could be a planet. You know what I'm saying? In the system that
Everything's
is a galaxy.
connected.
Yeah. 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 So
Um,
it's starting to understand that everything's happening at scale, levels of scale.
Okay. Okay.
okay. And then,
That's
so how
great.
did biomagnetism come into your either your healing journey? Maybe it was something you used and then you learned. How did that come into play?
Yeah, biomagnetism. So I started out as a Reiki healer when I was 10 years old. And that was like I had a family where we all did Reiki. And when I was home from school, I would just be like, Mom, can I have some Reiki? Not Mom, can I have Tylenol? Tylenol. Oh God. But like, that was how I grew up. And my
Uh,
mom had a doctor and a surgeon for a father. And so she would just be like, don't tell anyone at school and don't tell your grandpa. He'll think we're witches or we're crazy. And so I didn't really tell people about like I mean, I did, but like I was just kind of living I didn't get really expressive about it until I was like past 18. And then I was like, I guess I'm not supposed to tell anyone. Am I crazy? I might be because, I wasn't supposed to tell people at school. However, when I was young, in sixth grade, my classmate had a brain tumor and had to stay home for basically the entire sixth grade. And me and my mom and my sister would go to her house after school and give her Reiki. And I don't really, that was kind of the first time that I realized that, like, oh, wow, you can create a a transformation from illness to sickness or from sickness to illness because she didn't have to have brain surgery and the tumor went away. And she always said to me, like, oh, you saved my life. And I said, no, we didn't do anything. We literally just held space for you to make a new choice because there's all those choices available.
mhm.
And so as I grew up having, energy healing at the fore of my career, it's kind of my longest skill that I have. It shifted and changed with the times, with the consciousness of myself and the consciousness of the planet and where it shifts and changes. And, I learned long distance Reiki in the weirdest way. I went to Sedona when I was like, maybe 20. And I was sitting on one of the vortexes and I turned around and there was like a red rock with a bunch of crystal that looked like a galaxy in it. And I was like, oh, and I said, ooh, can I have this rock? Because I didn't want to take it without asking. It said, and I heard the voice, may you use it wisely. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I can have it. So I took it home with me. And then I started, I don't know, in the presence of the rock, I don't even really know. In the presence of the rock, started to understand how I could long distance heal. And then I preferred it rather than hands on. I preferred it because I had so much more agency where I'm like, let's just get all this physical stuff out of the way. And I want to talk to, you know, your essence and my essence so that we can, get to the root here. If you ever work on an animal, it's pretty simple because they don't have so much in the way, right? You just apply the energy and then they just take the note. Working long distance, I started to figure out like, oh, you can kind of cut through layers faster in the in the area where we're not bogged down in the physical. And so that then became my mechanism. And as I needed to understand, I guess, I mean, I don't know how biomagnetism just kind of found me, and I was like, this is the next thing. And my teachers studied with Dr. Goyce, who was a physical doctor, and he applied the magnets on the body almost similar to how an acupuncturist would apply needles, and found different biomagnetic pairs that when you apply the two polarities would neutralize the pH and the pathogens would zero out, in that neutralized pH. there's, I don't know if let me just keep going and I'll go back to this. So they studied with him, and then my teachers got together, and one of them focused on quantum physics, and the other was kind of more, I would say, I guess shamanic and energetic. And they shared notes and created quantum bioenergetics, right? Which is like quantum magnetism, but my teacher Rolando Diaz says, at some point the magnets are obsolete. They're limited. They're limited, like an actual physical magnet is limited. But when you work in that dimension, then I'm talking about that when I learned the long distance, interface, you have so much capacity to go so much more thorough and so much more detailed and so much more. You just have more at your fingertips. So they took Dr. Goy's perspective and then added more of that expanded, like kind of where we are now, understanding, the multidimensionality of I mean, pathogens and pH is just one level of it. And, sometimes in a session, I see like, okay, you have a biomagnetic pair, you have a pathogenic equation here in the physical, but you also have a pathogenic equation in the etheric body, and so I have to apply the same biomagnetic pair that I would on a physical body, but like on your, in the etheric or in a different level of being. So it's taking those magnetic torus fields and balancing out to get to the 0 point. What's the 0 point? It's your originating self, right? And then, when things are out of balance, when they're too electric, too magnetic, too negative, too positive, too, just imbalanced, right? And it's getting back to that 0 point, but there's, entrainment, I guess, on lots of
So,
different.
so dis-ease would be one of those imbalances,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
right?
Dis
Yeah.
is a
Okay.
dissonant
Dissonance.
frequency,
Yeah.
right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you okay, so just to explain and get our listeners clearer on biomagnetism,
Mhm.
can you walk us through a session? Like, are you doing this by distance?
Yes, I'm doing it by
And
distance.
what kind of questions are you asking to get to that point where you can find this 0 point?
I ask true cause, what's the body? And I talk to the body and I say to the body, what is the true cause of migraines? Or what is the true cause of, if it could be like something that's, I talk to my clients in the beginning of a session and I say, what's going on with you? Tell me about your symptoms. Tell me about things that you're working through, things that are coming up. Oh, you feel nobody can see you, you're in your career, you're feeling like, oh, nobody can see me. And then this came up when in my recent birthday and they didn't see me, and then this came up over, so this is kind of alive in me, and I make a list and I number the list, and then I ask for permission and I connect in on it's the 10th gate, which is the infinity, and then I dial in to the person based on their name, their age, and their birth date and their location, because in the quantum field, there's one of you, the N1 of you, the one of one
Mhm.
is that. And so I dial into the one of one. And then once I establish a connection, then I ask the body, what is the true cause of this? And you get the wildest answers because the body knows exactly where that originating contract. And I say contract because the contract is like, I'm 2 years old. I touched a hot stove. It sort of freaked me out. I'm going to make a contract never to do that again.
Right.
Right. And so where the contract went, where the exclusion is, meaning sometimes it's turning into an ancestor's contract of when did the ancestor lose the blueprint and ride into the dissonance and become the dissonance and have that be a crutch that just carried on because we're evolving, right? So of course you're going to, if you touch a hot stove and it sucks, you want to pass that information down. So then, I get, you know, I'm born 3 generations down and I'm like, ooh, stoves, I don't do those. misinformation. I mean, I'm being general here so we can learn,
Yeah.
but I have that program in my evolution so that I don't do that too. So the
Sure.
dissonance gets passed down, right? So I ask where there's dissonance and I ask where there is, what the true cause is. And then the body has order of operation and it finds a space-time point where the dissonance originated. Like sometimes there's like 5 contracts, within that sort of creation of the dissonance. And then I find the primary contract, and then usually the other 4 will delete. And I'm like working to sort of flip the script on the dissonance. So when I flip the script, it's like it's kind of like computer programming. So I'll say, let's say your dissonant emotion or sensation, kind of from the emotion code, right? Let's say the dissonant emotion or sensation is disappointment. And this is sort of like really present and it's driving the pathogenic equations and like the symptomology and like your entire holographic reality, right? Disappointment, you make me sick. This is what, on one side of the magnetic balance, dissonance, you make me sick. Dissonance, I want to be healthy. Whoosh. So you're walking every time you have, or I'm sorry, disappointment, constant disappointment, right? If you, whatever you look for, it's going to show up. So, oh, this happened yesterday, disappointed. I'm always disappointed. You know why? Because it always, my holographic reality will prove it to me that I have disappointment,
Yeah.
right? So you have that
That's the same
alive
as
in you.
confirmation bias. Or
Yeah.
people will take it as confirmation bias. Oh,
Yeah.
see, this is always happening.
See,
That's proof.
see,
That's
and I'm
my
going to
proof.
prove it. And watch
Yeah.
tomorrow, I'll find it too, because that's the program.
Yeah.
So it's walking you towards your symptom over and over and over. It's like a loop, right? You're walking and it more and more, digging yourself deeper into a hole. So then I flip it and I almost like make it mean the opposite thing, right? So you go through the Taurus field into disappointment, you make me healthy. So then I entrain, I'm working with various aspects of you because it gets really wild, right? Is it you in the now? Is it your grandma who had the exclusion,
And you can
4
ask
grandmas ago?
that with the
Yes.
muscle testing, right?
Well, and I work on all levels of like, where do we need to start this? And then, or kind of insert the it's like computer programming kind of,
Yeah.
like where's the glitch? Let's delete the glitch. Let's reprogram the glitch. And then moving forward. So, science is saying, well, if you change the now, you can go back and the future or the past changes. That too has to do with, reprogramming, but then also shifting your perspective and creating an awareness. So in my sessions, I'll say, this disappointment, are you connected to this? And I'll sometimes talk to them until they get connected. And there's various levels. Like if I get a biomagnetism session from my teacher, all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm remembering my shoes, 7th grade. I see the hallway, I can smell it. And I know where that dissonance originated, like things come up. And my clients will be like, oh yes, oh my gosh, I'm having a memory of this. And I'm like, okay, so the body is guiding you, and a lot of it's subconscious, right? But then it's also you as the governor, the overarching governor. When your awareness shifts and change, you can govern differently. So if you have a memory of that disappointment, it's like you're looking at it. Have you seen those things where you say, oh, it's reality is this, it's this, it's this, it's all sorts of vantage points. So
Mhm.
if you change your vantage point and you're able to see from multiple vantage points that you couldn't when you created the disappointment, then all of a sudden it disappears or it shifts because you can see it from different angles, this way, all sorts of different angles. It becomes a different sculpture, I like to say. It becomes a different work of art or work of creation. And then you can say, oh, I guess I was looking at it. That's why I'm so mad at so and so, and I'm so disappointed because they did this, this, and this to me. And that's your vantage point that you had at the time. But if you can see it from another vantage point, then you're like, oh, I guess I could delete that. I don't need
Yeah.
and and that happens after a session or before. I mean, because time is kind of a construct. So probably before. So it could happen to your 6-year-old self at the same time
Yeah.
that it's happening to you for the next 2 weeks forward. And it all kind of changes you, shifts you. And then as a result, you shift, your symptoms shift, your perspective shifts, your awareness shifts, your knowledge shifts, all of that shifts. And there you are, right?
In the
And
recovery,
everything's different. Everything's different, you know?
in the recovery community, we have the 12 steps. And
Yep.
step 4, you do an inventory. You're like explaining quantum inventory right now. That
Yeah.
just came to me.
Yeah, yeah. But the body has orders of operation for this quantum inventory. So if you come to me and it's like tinnitus, let's say, and you have like a long-standing streptococcus, weakness that probably wasn't even yours, it's inherited, like, because when I come up with certain, when certain pathogens come up, I'm like, I'm not diagnosing you with Lyme right now. Like, we're talking
Oh.
about frequency here. And the Lyme could be happening in a different dimension. So stay with me, try to stay focused. I know I'm weird, but go with me here. So, the order of operation, the inventory, the quantum inventory is we got to work on this streptococcus, arrangement before we can get to what's going on with the tinnitus. There's a lot going on, and that's why you have to sort of heal in layers, right? Like you have
Yeah.
to heal in layers, and you have to chip away at it, because the body knows how to get back to the original blueprint. It will never lose its way. It doesn't even need, breadcrumbs. It knows exactly where it's going. You just need to work the different layers, and you got to process the layers in between sometimes too, because I can help you delete it, but then I'm like, okay, now we need to make the new habit, right? And that's where there's a crossover of not just you can't just do biomagnetism sessions and then call it, completed, although it's pretty deep work, right? But you can't just say, oh yeah, I have installed a bunch of strobe lights in my house, never mind those red lights. I'm going to do the strobe lights, and then I'm going to do biomagnetism, and I'm going to eat Swedish fish all year, and I'll be fine, right? And it's like, well, maybe you could do that. There's probably really, really advanced, conscious, maybe monks in a cave that might be able to do that. But it all works together. Like, you might want to turn the strobe light off, and you might want to put a red light on, and you might want to like figure out your fuel system, and like, it all works together to create those new habits so that you can metabolize differently from the original dissonance.
Yeah. Yeah. So this requires work. It's not like I'm going to go to you and you're going to be like, okay, we just deleted that. We flipped that and this and that, and see you next week. It's
But there is stuff in your subconscious that you like. I'll give you an example, because I was working on my dog. So I just moved, and it was a displacement situation. And the dog and I can get into German new medicine style things, which I take from
okay.
in my sessions with conflict shocks. So the dog got really sick, and I was like, okay, this is it. And he started having urinary issues, and like kind of like almost like I thought he was becoming dementia, and I was like peeing at his food, and like just sort of like eating his food and then peeing, and then like and it was getting kind of crazy. And then he got like this super inflamed sinuses, and I was like, oh, he has an infection in his head and he's dying. Okay, great. And his sinuses, and I did a session on him, and it was a conflict shock from the territory loss. And why? Because he was trying to figure out where he was, and he's he lost his home, he lost his domain, and he was like, where am I? And so the pathogens got pinged all in his urinary system, and then all in his sinuses. He was trying to smell his way, like, where's home? Where's home? So it inflamed, right? And then, I worked on the original, and I also had a colleague so I did a session on him, and then she did a session on him, different layers, because sometimes when you're really close, to yourself, it's harder for me to do a session on myself than it is to do on you, because right.
Yeah.
So my dog is kind of almost me. So, but I did a session. I was like, oh, wow, this is making so much sense. Like, he is the emotion and sensation. And it was disappointment, which is why that was in my brain.
Okay.
Disappointment was activating pathogens, activating the conflict shock of where am I, right? And so all those microbes woke up to assist him, in, well, we have to inflame the nose to figure out where we are, and then we have to like mark our territory. So the urinary system goes completely bonkers, and it's just like, well, we need to pee here, we need to pee there, we need to pee when we don't realize we're peeing. We need to go into, I mean, right? And the entire time it was happening, I was like, I can't take him to I don't, I got to just work the energy here. And once we transmuted things in the energetic, because dogs, he hasn't had an accident since, and his sinuses are clearing up because the conflict shock, like, I'll work sometimes with, if I'll find something and I'll say, is this a conflict shock? Yes. At what percentage is it playing out? 90%. What's causing this? It could be, I have a whole lists. I'm like Harry Potter books, like lots of
Yeah.
books, lots of lists. And then I ask the body, like, what's causing this? And then we chip away at it so that we can dial the conflict down, heal, and shift the frequency. And then you don't need that compensation, because his sinuses, he needed it because he needed a sniff. He needed that because he needed to find a territory, right? It's a really easy way to explain it, right?
Yeah.
And once that transforms, your reality transforms, that your holographic reality transforms, whatever's in your subconscious, like, because he probably didn't realize it was in his subconscious, right? Or, I mean, he's a dog, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If he was a person, you'd be like, I don't understand. When you work with clients, they don't understand why their symptoms are like, why? And I'm like, it's poetry. It's amazing poetry. Like, we have to first figure out the poetry of it, but we can ask the body it's poetry, why it's compensating, and it's compensating for those, like, traumas, right? So
Th-
mhm.
This is amazing to me that like, you can do this with, like, there's no technology here. It's just like we have the tools
Yeah,
in order to tap into this stuff
yeah,
with our own muscle testing. We can do it.
yeah,
Like, we don't have to go buy a fancy thing. I
yeah,
mean, you need to know some things. Of course, you need to be taught, but
yeah,
like it just amazes me.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I've been like taking him out like every 2 hours, and I'm like, look at this, look at this. This is you. This is you. This is your new yard. This whole yard
Right.
is yours. And I'm almost doing it energetically, because he's a dog. So it's sometimes with people, they have a lot of blocks where they're like, no, no, no stoves. The stove is scary. I don't even care if it's not plugged in. I don't want it, and then it's a
Yeah.
block. But dogs are really open. So I was like re-entraining him and being like, here, and he can feel my energetic, communication way more than, you and your parent, or you know what I'm saying, two people that have their safety mechanisms. So he all of a sudden was like, had the new habits, right? We turned off the strobe lights, we put the red light on, so to speak. And now he's got a new habit that he can lean into, like, from that deleted space of the subconscious. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So sometimes I work with what I call like a hologram. And I know it sounds kind of it sounds pretty magical, but I'll say, in what hologram, because I have lists of these holograms and I set up these holograms. In what hologram is this information? It carries this information of this symptom of, what you're working on, and then I'll get the hologram. I'll set up the hologram. I'll ask how long you need this hologram for: minutes, hours, days, weeks, months. and your body tells me, and then I entrain an emotion or sensation in the inverse so that the hologram is just like, it's almost like, yeah, it entrains you. Disappointment, you make me sick. No, disappointment, you make me healthy. Disappointment, you make me
Yeah.
healthy. So the
The new
holographic,
belief.
I'm working with like lots of different magnets in like a holographic arrangement around you. I know it's crazy, right? And then, I'm changing, I'm assisting you to adopt a changed perspective in that holographic like entrainment, I guess, so that you can learn that disappointment, can be flipped.
Yeah. No, it's
I know it
it's
took me
a
like a year to figure out how to like explain it to people, where I'm just like, oh, okay, stay with me here. And I'm like, do I
and
sound crazy?
how
I do, don't
so
I?
with your teachers, how long did you study with them?
Like I started in 2020. We started in 2020, and then I still, I'll have a session with them, and then
Mhm.
like one of my teachers doesn't even really hardly speak English, and he just gives me like blocks of information, and I'm like, I understand exactly what you're saying. I can't put it to words, like teaching me his new techniques, because we're all kind of in a group of practitioners, and we're
Okay.
trailblazing, and things are shifting and changing, and we are, working together to come up with new techniques. And like, my teacher Alan Lagunas, he'll say, okay, we're working to like, so think about this, your fascia, right? We talk in the quantum community, oh, you know what, you have these adhesions in your fascia. So I look at it like, yeah, you do. And you also have iron is stuck in your tissues. And what do you do? You've got a bunch of pathogens, and you got a bunch of stuck emotions. Energy is in all those forms in that adhesion, right? So is it iron stuck in the tissues? Yes. Is it pathogenic? Is it something with pathology? Yes. Is it stuck emotions and sensations in your fascia? Yes. So, when I started learning, we were kind of like hand taking them out one by one. And I'm like, this is going to take forever. Like, what are we doing here? We need something quicker. And so then my teacher was like, oh, I've figured out, like, the psychodynamic points. There's magnetic points for different sorts of psychodynamic or psycho-emotional pairs, which are like, where's the disappointment? There's a pair in the body that coincides with the microbes, that coincides with the stuckness, that coincides with everything. And so I'll ask in a session, like, how many trapped emotions and sensations of disappointment can we release in this session? And I'm like, give me the number. How many digits does it have? Sometimes it's 5,000. Sometimes it's 10,000. Sometimes it's 40. And those are like the repeats of, like the program, like over and over and over and over, goes to a specific spot in reality, right? And so, he'll come up with like, oh, we can delete all of these at once. And I'm like, yay, good thinking, because that was annoying me, so we're all
Yeah.
working together to like come up with kind of ways
Efficiencies.
to play in the information. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
because
awesome.
you know, uh, this is a project that we're all doing. Like, how do we get rid of like generations of trauma? I was just talking with a client of mine, or not a client, a colleague, and she's like, the conflict shocks are so stacked. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna have to figure out we're gonna be doing this. I mean, somebody's gonna have to hire me as like, I'm gonna have to just, we're gonna have to do this faster, because they are so stacked. They're stacked multidimensionally. They're stacked, from my great grandma to my grandma to my mom to me to, it just, they're so stacked. But when you shift your vibration, do they all fall away? I mean, isn't that how energy works? Right? So, in one way they could be stacked, and like, you could just have to keep on going, and oh, this one's underneath that one, and that one's underneath this. Oh my God, there's so many of them. Or, I'm like, okay, we got to figure out a way to like raise our frequency out of all of that. And then once you do that, right? Like, do you have the same iron in your tissues? Do you have the same adhesion? Do you have the same pathogenic equation that's playing out? If you're not relating to disappointment, that kind of is the driver of that energy, frequency, vibration, right?
Right.
You're not relating to that in the same way. So, do they all shift and change?
With
You
a
know?
new holographic
Yeah.
picture, right?
Yeah,
New
yeah.
hologram.
But it's interesting because I was working with myself last night with my own like trauma that happened, and then a new experience that I'm having now with like a new relationship where I'm like, oh my God, this is so scary. I don't even want to say anything. But I'm like, oh wait. I am superimposing what just happened onto this one, and I was fighting with myself where I'm like, no, he could surprise me and everything could be turned upside down because I remember that, right? So and I was like watching the synapses in my brain as I was talking to myself, and I was like, no, you're here now. And I'm like, well, am I though? Am I though? I don't know if I am. I didn't, because when if you get broadsided once, you think you're going to get broadsided again, right? So this is evolution too, right? Like, so some of it's good, right? It keeps you safe.
Yeah.
So I was watching myself be like, okay, well, could I try that on? Is this a different situation? I guess it is kind of different. Is it though? Is it though? And it's that push pull, but that is where you want to go working with any practitioner. You want to become somebody that starts to be able to entangle all of that subconscious stuff. It's all happening, right? But in your agency as the overarching governance of your essence and your being and your entire, everything. As you become the have more dexterity with that position, you can have those conversations with yourself and you can override those conflict shocks that are happening, right? Because they just repeat, and you think like, well, I need to keep myself safe, I need to keep myself, I need control, I need approval, I need safety, I need to not die, basically, right? And so it's like working that to become conscious so that you can live in the now with your original blueprint
Yeah.
and not from these like past traumas of like, where's my territory? Where's my territory? You like the dog, right? Where's my territory?
Mhm.
Where am I? Where am I? Where am I? Because am I making sense?
You are, and I think
Okay.
that everybody needs this.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
making sense.
Yeah.
can you tell us, like, just to tie back to your healing
Hmm.
journey? It sounds like you've done some things along the way that
Hmm.
have brought you to the biomagnetism. Can you just fill in those holes a little bit? And then to
Yeah.
where you are now? We haven't talked at all about your skincare. I want to talk about that line as well.
Yeah. So, I
But
mean,
to the
sorry, did I cut you
biomagnetism.
off? Sorry.
Yeah, no, just and how you, because I I know you've talked about pH,
Mhm.
with, how biomagnetism can affect the pH. And for me, all kinds of things come up in my own healing journey because I went down this alkaline path for
Yeah.
quite a long few years, and everything I was learning all about pleomorphism in the
Mhm.
body and how things can start as a bacteria and end up as a
Mhm.
yeast or a fungus,
Yep.
uh,
Yep. Yep. They
and to
flicker.
me, like so much between Reiki, access consciousness bars. I don't know much about the emotion code. I know that India knows more
Mhm.
about it, but it just seems like all these things are coming together. And then, of course, you didn't say it, but you studied quantum biology yet? Did you study
Yeah,
that?
I study it as necessary, like as
Yeah.
necessary to get me, I was like, all right, I have no energy. Okay, so,
Okay.
for some substrate, my illness was, it was, after my mom passed away, my period was like maybe 2 weeks early. And there was a conflict shock the night that it happened, actually, which was like an altercation with a friend of mine, which was very interesting.
Okay.
However, 2 weeks later, or 2 weeks after or a couple of months after my mom passed away, my period became 2 weeks early. And I was like, this is weird. And then it just continued and continued for a decade. And it was insane. and I was going crazy. And it started out as what seemed to be endometriosis, but I didn't let anyone diagnose me. I was like, get your codes away from me. I was always very much so like, okay, great, nice theory, gotta go, but but it was presenting like that, which like I was like, this is psychedelic. Ow. And so it started with a lot of pain, and then it was just bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. And I had 17 transfusions. My hemoglobin went to about a 6, and then I got my first transfusions, and then it never got above, it would go up past like a 7.5 for like a couple weeks, and I'd be like, okay, I guess I can just carry my bag now. And then it went down to like finally a 2.6, and this is over a series of years, and my body just coped and wouldn't stop bleeding. I got like some surgery that, the doctor was like, okay, it's like a polyp and, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, okay, so yeah, this should work. And I was like, all right, great. After the surgery, my hemoglobin dropped so much that I was like, is this from the anesthesia? Because I can't really work out anymore. Like, what's happening? And it didn't work. It kind of made it worse. And then I called him back and I was like, it's kind of worse. And he was like, oh, wow. Well, then I know what to do. And I was like, then you know what to do? Wait, what are you talking about? Hold on a minute. Hold on a minute. He's like, yeah, you need birth control and you need progestin. And I was like, progestin? He's like, I'm going to call it in. And I was like, dude, you are fired. You're reckless. You're insane. Like, this should be illegal what you're doing to people. Like, I would fire doctors like left and right. And they wanted to give me a hysterectomy, but I was like, no. And so anyway, that was what I was working with. And then I found Morley Robbins, and then he helped me with, from the iron, because I had clearly an iron and copper problem, but it was like acute, and it was like, through actual blood loss that was continuous. And the root cause of that, right, is very multidimensional. Is it losing my mom? Yes. Is it, the altercation that, pinged the conflict shock the day that it occurred? Yes. Is it generational? Yes. I've gone through both sides of my lineage traumas. I mean, at one point I was like, all you ladies, all of us are so messed up. Oh my God. So I basically had to like do heavy lifting for like thousands of women. Like, I would go into meditation, I'd be like, oh my God, all of us, all of us, all of us. Okay. Okay.
Oh,
And so to your question, like, how did you get into all of this? I literally had to walk through a dark forest alone in winter by myself, step by step, with hardly any shoes, to figure out how to get out, and get out for myself and for my lineage, like whatever trauma that ended at me. And I don't have any children. So that the line ends with me. So I'm the transmuter, you know what I'm saying? So I had to do all of that. And I guess I'm talking in circles. So, or I'm talking in brainstorm map style. But how, as I had to deal with all of that, I had to figure out, like, okay, so you don't have any energy. So they want you to take iron supplements. You're not doing that. That's not how the body works. What are you going to do? You're going to have to get into ketosis. You're going to have to get into ketosis for like a year, but you have to fast, but you can't fast very much. You have to fast a certain way, because if you fast too much, your hemoglobin's going to go down and you might die. So you're going to have to walk that edge quite safely, like with trepidation. Maybe you can go 19 hours and you can dip your toe, and then you're going to pull back and you're going to microdose maple syrup, and you're going to squeeze the year into a day, and you're going to microdose at noon. Like, I was figuring out how to go into that higher level of ATP, and that, and I was figuring out, like, oh my God, I would like stay up all night, and I would like go to dance parties and put lasers in my eyes. Like, whoa, you got to get on track, Lauren. Like, you have to figure out your fuel system. We have to downshift into fat fuel so we can rebuild your bone marrow, first of all. But you have to figure out how to metabolize your, metabolize your experiences, your fuel, your light environment, your minerals, your molecules, your pain story, your lineage. You have to metabolize all of this. So that's how I got to where I was going, was figuring out all the components to how somebody gets off the list of the Grim Reaper, because I was on that list. I was for sure on that list in what I affectionately call my NDE on slow-mo, because it was an NDE. It was an NDE super emergency that was like an implosive one that was like a 4-year stretch of time. And I had to be like, okay, don't die in the Uber. That would be embarrassing. Don't shave your legs. If you cut yourself, you could die. Like, right? Like you would have to be airlifted out of this bathroom. So it was like really, I had to study and study and study. And I was starting to learn Latin, and this is how I explain it. I was starting to learn the Latin of the human body and listening to Jack Cruz, who was my French, inspiration, and then Morley Robbins, who was my Spanish inspiration. And I was like, you guys are kind of saying the same thing. Okay, so I have to do both of these things. All right, great. From the integrity of the root language, we're just going to use the metaphor of Latin, right? Understanding how a body becomes well and heals itself, but from all the different vantage points that everybody is so wonderfully trailblazing us out of the sick care system that really doesn't help you at all. I mean, nobody knows what they're doing.
Yeah, and good for you for being able to decipher through that, because I know when I'm in, like before I knew anything, if I was in pain, like, I was listening to whatever the doctor told me to do because I was like, they know what to do to get me out of this pain. I never was in a situation like yours, though. And so for you to be firing all those people because your intuition is saying, no, this is not
Yeah.
right, like that is truly amazing.
I had to, I mean, sometimes I was like riding the edge of like defiance and insanity, because they would say you have to take this iron pill, and I was like in the hospital and I was like, no, bitch. Like, and I threw it in the garbage when she wasn't looking, this crazy black pill, and I was like, what? And then she's like, well, it's going to make you constipated. And I was like, what? Hold on a minute. How are you going to fix that then? And then she's like, well, we can give you a stool softener. And I was like, what are the ingredients of this stool softener? And then I was like, get back to me or I'm not taking, and I was arguing with her and she's like, what is this girl? This girl is like in the hospital. Like she is dead, basically. Like, what is she talking about? She's not going to take it. And I was like, no, I'm not. I am not taking this. Like, we're not doing that. And I was just kind of off to the side in my own head. I'd be like, oh my God, Lord, what are you saying? What are you saying? Are you going to die? You might, you might, you might, you might.
Oh my
No, don't
God.
take it. Right. And yeah, I mean, at one point I was in the hospital and he's like, we're going to have to do exploratory surgery. We're going to keep you overnight and at 8 a.m. And I was like, hold on a second. You know what? If I was doing plastic surgery, you would check my hemoglobin. And if my hemoglobin was like an 11 or a 9, you would cancel that shit.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are you talking about? You're going to take me into exploratory surgery tomorrow when I'm in here and my hemoglobin is a 6. You tell that doctor. The answer is no. And if I was your teacher, I would flunk you because you could kill me. And then they're like, oh, okay, so just the blood today, right? Just just the blood, like,
Okay,
right?
sharing your story. That's
Oh,
amazing. I respect to time. We want to make sure
Yeah.
we dive in to your amazing, what I would say is the most quantum, if you're going to ever label skincare quantum, it's yours.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
And yeah, and so I know you were a fashion designer and then I don't know if you segued into the skincare
Yeah.
industry then, but
Hmm.
I was a makeup artist for 10 years. And so I was very into the skincare and all the things, worked at some salons and whatnot,
Yeah.
mostly on the retail side though. But I ended up, because I worked at this one salon in New York City, I was very into the skincare and all the things
Mhm.
and would love for you to share how you ended up realizing that what was going on in the mainstream was actually wrong.
Yes, so much of it is so much of it is like Chicken Little. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we need this, we need that, we need this, we need that. Oh, this, and it's like, no, 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 no. You got to dial it back and be more simple about it. So I'm
Yeah.
very, very, I'm a maximalist when it comes to fashion, and I'm actually a minimalist when it comes to skincare. And
Okay.
because when it's pure, when it's natural, and when it's nature, it is not complicated. It is very simple, right? Even though I just told you all these complicated things that like how do you get yourself back to normal? It's a lot of different things. So you could argue that it's complicated, but at the core of everything, it's very simple. So my main tenet of, designing this skincare line is, well, I have a couple. The first is it's all of the kingdoms of Earth's kingdoms. It's not just the plant kingdom. Guys, we can't just have one kingdom and be done with it. We have minerals, we have animals, we have plant, everything is working together. So it's a multi-kingdom formulation range. That's first and foremost. Second, it is all whole vitamins, not isolates, because we have vitamin compounds and we have vitamin complexes. In nature, everything has a complex. When you take something out of nature and copy it, right? Like, let's just say the sun. We've got all the colors, right? In the middle of the day, it's the entire rainbow. It is a complex of light. When you're sitting in front of a panel of red light, it is a compound or of just isolated red light, right? So your vitamins and your vitamins work that way. So for example, let's take vitamin A retinol that everybody loves in skincare. They love their retinol. That is an isolate, right? And it's isolated out of nature. So the reason why I brought tallow to the luxury market is I was like, this is your full spectrum retinol. It's not going to be as drastic as your retinol that is an isolated vitamin A that makes you skin sensitive and light sensitive and you can't put it on when you're pregnant. I mean, those are all red flags, right? But it is a full spectrum vitamin A from nature. So tallow is full spectrum vitamin A, D, E, and K. It's all in there. It is a complex of all of that. And so I formulate very much like an Italian grandma who is cooking the best simple stuff, that you're like, this caprese is amazing. Why is it amazing? Because it's got a couple of ingredients and they're really awesome. And they're put together in a really nice combination. So I put it together in that way and I make sure that you're getting the full complex of your nutrients, and those nutrients are combined symphonically in all the kingdoms. So that's pretty much the formulation inspiration. And I very much so think that like skincare goes with like inner care is like your first bottle of skincare. And then the other stuff is like, skincare is luxury, meaning you're taking Earth's kingdoms and you're just lapping in them. It's not your fix. You can't topically fix something that's like melasma, for example. That is a mineral problem. That's an oxygen. That's a lot's going on creating. If you topically try to fix your melasma, you're cheating yourself big time, right? But your skincare, you need skincare. I like skincare because I like to lap in it. I like to have it be, it's an ally and it's a tool that I work simultaneously with my inner terrain. And I think they both have their place. But
Mhm.
you're, but if I fixed melasma without fixing the root cause, that would be a problem, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Speak to a couple of your products. I know, and I want you to touch on face wash for people.
Okay, okay,
Okay.
because I went deep into this. Okay, so I didn't have a face wash for a long time, and my friend who's an esthetician, she was like, if you get a cleanser, then you'll have a complete range. And I'm like, cleanser, but I don't even wash my face. Like, what am I doing? So I was like, all right, let me think about this, and I thought about it for like a really long time. This was like a 2 year focus of this formulation that is simple at the end of it all. But I had some speed bumps in terms of like a little bit of surfaction and, right? Like things that would make it be what I wanted it to be. But my cleanser, for example, it's called salt of the earth cleansing grains, and it's crushed flowers, it's crushed herbs, it's clay, and it is something that works with your microbiome and your terrain. And it is kind of like if, I always explain it like this, like if we were together and we were like, you know what, this is amazing. We're in Sardinia on our vacation and this is so fabulous. We should take it up a notch. Let's go into the garden and let's get some mud and let's get some flowers and let's make something that's really gonna like take this vacation up 15 notches and let's make our own our own formulation from our environment, like, and that's kind of like the inspiration for it, like
Okay.
how would you just want to like drink in
Your
your
experience.
environments? Yes, yes. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I would want to take rose petals and crush them up finely, and and then let's add the whole garden, and let's take this mud and that mud and some sea mud and all sorts of things, and let's create that. So I don't want to make it too simple, but because it bubbles up, and you can use it in multiple different ways. You can use it as a mask. You can use it with your toner, mix it with your toner. I sometimes when I don't want to sleep, like I want to have my skin breathe, I will mix it with an oil, my face oil, and then I will pat it dry, and then I won't need to, like, I'll be able to, have moisturization for the evening, and right. So I created this cleanser because you shouldn't be washing. Why are you washing your face? So that brings me, why are you washing your face? You're washing your face because you're putting too much shit, pardon my French, on your face,
Yeah.
right? Like it's too much. It is the other sunglasses that no one's talking about. Like you can't just block yourself from the light
Done.
code all day, every day. No, right? So I have another product called Savage Rose Luminous Balm, which is my makeupless makeup, which is a tallow balm that is kind of like like illuminator, that is almost like push the button in real life of the Instagram filter that has like the face with the little yellow sparkles around it. It's like that. It smooths you out, but I can still interact with the light. I'm right. Like I am not blocking myself with I don't have a face at the end of the day that needs to be cleansed off, right? I
Right.
don't have that. So I know you're a makeup artist, and I'm like, I'm not
I
trying to.
used to be one. And
Yeah,
now
yeah, yeah.
now
Yeah,
it's
where
completely.
when you're covering
No,
up and you're
people have
covering up and
layers of
covering up.
foundation, concealer, and
It's
now they do
crazy.
this contouring thing. Like we only did like when I learned that all the contouring, like that was
Yeah.
for stage makeup. And now
Right.
it's like it went
Right.
into regular people's makeup routines. Like
Yeah.
I didn't that's like way out of my era of doing makeup for people. But yes, you had when you have foundation on your face at night, yeah, you need a cleanser and you need all the things that,
Yeah.
your makeup artist is going to sell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Messing up
Yeah.
the pH balance of your face and
Yeah.
all sorts of things.
Yeah, so I have a like I call it my ultraviolet rose tonic, and that has, it's like a alcohol free. It's got probiotics, And it also has amethyst. It has
Oh.
amethyst and it has rose, it has geranium, it has some cardamom, and it will feed the good bacteria, the microbiome. It keeps your microbiome in good constitution. And then I have my cerate of immortelle, which is my retinol balm, which is tallow. I have one thing, it's CoQ10, that is, an isolate that I put in there to frequency communicate with the tallow. And then I use ceramides, and I'm working with all aspects of your skin, so the cells and then the spaces in between, with just nutrients. And everything I create is so that you remember your ability to create and your health from the inside out. And also, if you give if you give yourself the tools, you will be able to shine forth, glow forth from within, and your body knows how to repair itself, so yeah. And I have a it's called Nature's Facelift. And that is, so it's a funny story. I'll tell it really quick. I was studying formulation, and I was telling my dad about it, and I was like, tigers would roll around and heal themselves with this stuff. Go to cola, and it's like it'll lift, it'll actually lift. And he's like, okay, okay. And then he was telling me about this book about success, and he's like, oh, Laura, you got to read this book about success. I'm like, okay, Dad, all right, because he gets really excited about what he's reading, wants me to read it too. And so I was like, how big is the book? It's like 500 pages. And I was like, oh, yeah, yeah. So then I was like, okay, okay, I'll put it on my list of things to do. And then he called me back a couple days later, and he's like, you're never going to believe it. There's a chapter in this book. This whole book is about like how to be like ultra successful. And he's like, there's a chapter in the book about go to cola, that this is a trick. And I was like, this is so kismet. Amazing. Yes. So yeah, my Nature's Facelift is designed for you to interact. Like, it's not you, nothing should be overnight, right? It is a bi-directional relationship, and it is a co-creation with nature. So you're using herbs, and you know this, Laura, as a nutritionist. When you work with herbs, it's not a one and done. It's not a pill where you're like, okay, great, that worked. It's like, no, you sometimes have to, if you're working with an herb, you got to do that for like 3 months, 6 months. It's a relationship that you're
Same thing
entering
with
in.
homeopathy,
Yeah.
which I would know more about. But yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So yeah, so Nature's Facelift is an interaction,
Okay.
you know.
It, just to finish up the Bella, it's called Bella Nectar,
Béla
right?
Nektar, yeah.
Nectar. Okay.
The K. Béla Nektar with a K.
With a
Yeah,
K.
Belanektar.
Yeah. First off, I want to say, like, this is really big in Europe. Can you share how
So
that happened?
I mean, yeah, Europe is really excited right now about wellness, and they know wellness from the inside out more than America, right? They already know how to go to Sardinia and crush up flowers, and and put the mud on their face. They already do that naturally, right? Like, they know how to. I mean, people say, like, why are French people so skinny? Because they understand ketosis. You know what I'm saying? Just they were just born with it, right? Like, kind of. You know what I'm saying? I mean, there's
Yeah.
there's nuance. There's nuance.
Yeah.
I'm broad brushing it, but but they understand, you know, like when I would work with European people on fashion shoots, they would be like, "Your strawberries don't even taste like strawberries here," like, or whatever. They're like, "Well, I don't know what this is," and they have rules about all sorts of degradation that we in America don't have. But America has a wellness industry that's very robust. And Europe right now is really, they want matchas, they want juices, they want stuff. Like, they want to get into the kind of Air One lifestyle that me in California that I am accustomed to. They're like really hungry for it. So I work with a platform called Muse and Heroin in Europe, and she's an amazing, her name is Janine, and she is really into wellness and longevity and like hungry for knowledge and learning and trailblazing. And so she's very interested in getting a lot of brands from America that have been kind of on in the wellness sector that Europe is now wanting, you know?
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah,
Is
because you
she,
couldn't like a couple years ago, you couldn't, I mean, I don't really know exactly, but it wasn't like they can't get matchas like I can in Los Angeles, for example. You know, there's,
yep.
you know what I mean? That difference. It's like there's no Air One lifestyle, or there it's becoming that, but or it's
You're talking
going
about
in.
that fancy grocery store, right? We don't,
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
I
I
know
don't
yeah.
know
what you're
what you're
talking
saying.
about.
Like super fancy and like, ooh, I'm
Yeah.
gonna get a $20 green matcha
Yeah.
super something, you know, and it's gonna, you know, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So
Okay.
that
And
that
so then is Muse Heroin like a collection of like all these things she loves in one place, kind of
yeah, like a platform, like a
like
goop,
yeah,
like
or a Blue Mercury or something like this.
yeah, yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah, but more niche, more like
Curated.
yeah,
Like,
curated
yeah.
luxe niche, and everyone who's under her umbrella is really smart. And I created a tallow balm, a sun balm with Shiva Rose, and Shiva Rose introduced me to Muse and Heroin. And so Shiva and I, because Shiva Rose, she's the OG of natural products. She's been, you know, she's been trailblazing natural beauty. She's kind of, you know, an originator on the scene. And so I made a tallow, and she reached out to me and said, "Do you want to make a tallow collaboration?" And so we created a sun balm to teach people about the beauty vitamin that the sun is.
Hmm.
And that was kind of my entree into Muse and Heroin. And
Okay.
Shiva is amazing.
I
Yeah,
saw that
Shiva's
one.
more,
It's in a beautiful container.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And Shiva
Awesome.
is more like she's very rhythmic, and she, you know, feminine with like moon cycles. And then Ayurveda is kind of her, she's got a lot of knowledge in the Ayurvedic world.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So we have taken and you have given, or we've received and you have given so much of your time today. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to add that we didn't touch on with your skincare?
No, I mean, I also have an emu oil eye serum because emu oil is amazing and shouldn't be forgotten.
Mm.
And like that is like my whole vitamin C eye brightener. Am I forgetting anything? Yeah, yeah. So yeah.
It's going to be very hard for me to put together a list of things I want now.
I think we want it all. Is there one that you would advise for someone approaching, say, 59 in a couple days or in a week?
I would say the tallow balm.
Okay.
The tallow balm is like my hero product.
Hero
My
product.
my, you know, my natural retinol. I
Okay.
formulated it to be the echo of like a retinol, but full spectrum, full
Yeah.
spectrum, full complex from nature herself, not edited, you know, but arranged in perfect symphonic level, you know, like a levels, like arranged so that it is, you know, optimal. So
Yeah.
I would say that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I would just ask if we have a chance. You haven't mentioned your quantum fitness club. I
Oh,
was
yeah.
hunting
Yes.
around on your website. Oh, it looks so intriguing. Can you
Yes.
tell us what that is?
We're gonna start this year. It's so funny because I'm like, it's not ready yet, meaning like it's actually not ready, like cosmically. Like I'm tuning in, like, when am I supposed to have this meeting with these people? You know, because it's all kind of right, right? Everything's kind of happening all at once. And Are we going backwards or forwards in time? Who knows? But the Quantum Fitness Club is a way in which I can interface, because what I just explained was pretty, like, in this whole episode was kind of intense, right? And if you say, well, someone comes to me and says, well, how can I fix myself? And I'm like, well, you're gonna have to figure out a rhythm, and you're gonna have to retrace things. It's like that David Lynch meme where he's got his megaphone and he's like, that's great, do it again, this time good. That's like, we're constantly doing day night, we're constantly doing summer, autumn, winter, spring, repeat, and we are evolving and becoming our healthy selves. And for me, what I explained to you, my path of learning took years. And I, for example, and I'll be quick about this, right now I'm learning how to rebuild my body back from that really, really low place. And it's taken multiple summers, multiple winters to build different things. So when I got off the Grim Reapers list, I had to rebuild bone marrow level and like kind of, structural things. And then the body ebbed, and then it flowed, and then I was like, oh my god, am I gaining weight? This is so weird. And I'm like, inflammation, I can't figure it out, am I doing it wrong? And I'm like, no, you're rebuilding, okay. And then it ebbs back, and it's done with that process, and now it's like, okay girl, now you can make the muscles, now you got to get out there and do this and this. And these things you can't just fit. I can explain it to you, and you can do a session with me. I do quantum energetic, mineral balance, metabolics. I'll guide you, but like, we got to keep going. It's not a one and done. You have to figure out your process. And so the idea of the Quantum Fitness Club is for all of us to get together and to do it together in, camaraderie, where it's like an art studio, right? I'm the art teacher, your wellness teacher, or your wellness, professor or whatever. But I'm not teaching you. You know how you go to these things and they're like, I know, I figured out this. So everybody, it's $2,000 and come to my thing. And this is the thing. It's like, yeah, that's paint by numbers. Like, I want you to be an artist. I want you to understand the basics of like what paints, the concepts, like the color theory, the repetition and variation, all the aspects that make you an artist. And then I want you in the group where you can figure out how to become. I'm not going to tell you what to paint, right? I'm going to show you how to be the best artist, and then you're going to blossom. And then when you're in a group of everybody that's doing it, then you get it very inspired, right? Like,
Yeah.
so these the quantum wellness space is super confusing. You're like, I don't know, I can't get into ketosis. Why? And it's like, well, maybe your body doesn't want to be in ketosis right now, because it's not time for you to be in ketosis, because it's doing other things. Like, don't interrupt it. But it's this information. It's like learning how to surf those things, and then learning how to be a time traveler. I know that sounds crazy, but like, when I was not well and I was going, I was in, one level of my masterpiece, I had to go to the future, to who I am today. And I had to connect into her. So we can do this all the time, every season. So if you sign up on my newsletter, I give you it's a seasonal transmission. And it's a playlist. It's like, it's almost like a mini magazine. And I deal with, like, it's like poetry. It's like it's like the album of the season, but I'm like writing, doodling in my notebook, but it doesn't look like that. I'm doodling in my notebook, like the things, and they're like, things show up, an animal shows up, And it's like, oh my God, crows are everywhere. This is wild. So this is like my spirit guide of the season. And then there's like concepts and then the music. It's all understanding the essence of my consciousness in that season. However, sometimes you go backwards and forward. So it's retrocausal. So in one season, you might get all the downloads of the next season in the following year. So my seasonal awareness in the journal that I created that I share with everybody is now coming to life this autumn, even though I wrote it last autumn. So many things, like I am basically symbolically talking to myself forwards and backwards in my evolution. So it's like, yeah, you got to fix your light. Yeah, you got to fix your metabolism. Yeah, you have to fix your minerals. Yeah, those are all the things that you do as, an artist with good habits, but then your inspiration and the symbology around you. And so I kind of am teaching you how to do that. So we're going to start with this winter solstice, and we're going to do it's called the 13 Holy Nights, but I don't really like that. It's like the 12 days of Christmas, those songs, 12 Day Christmas, my true, we at the 0 point of, so we have two equinoxes and two solstices. And as we travel this repetition, they have different flavors, right? And so the winter solstice is the darkest time. It's when you go on the inside and time stops and you become very psychic. And so you can clock your entire year. So it's 13 nights. The first one clocks your entire year projection. And then the next night is your January, your February, all the 12 days of 12 of the months of the year. And you are so psychic if you allow yourself. It is crazy, absolutely crazy. And so that experience of learning how to play in your retrocausal true nature, like you are retrocausal, you have that skill set, you just haven't used it. And so it's applying that with the quantum biological aspects to really get the full picture of your senses and your environment, from the level of mitochondria all the way up to, your expressed, like, how you're experiencing your reality. Like it's speaking to you in symbology at all times. And this language not only is helping you evolve, but it makes things so much richer and so much more just delectable.
Yeah, that sounds really good.
I told you, Andia. I was running her before going, you're going to want to do this.
You talked me into it. All right.
Yeah.
So we always ask our guests, what does quantum healthy mean to you? So how would you answer that in just a quick little thing for people to take?
Yeah. So quantum healthy to me means understanding your multidimensional essence. So understanding that, and quantum is limited because it's quantifiable. There is something outside of quantum that we haven't gotten to yet. But right now, quantum seems really, really magical to us because we were super limited and sectioned off. And now we're becoming aware of our multidimensionality, our superpositions. And for now, it's a giant playground of understanding how to put all of that together. But just the sheer nature of quantum is quantify. So there's a limit to it, which is exciting. But I don't want to get too ahead of us because, we need to understand that quantum is an amazing playground that we're playing in. It's so vast and it's like, yay, yay, yay. But we're going to evolve even deeper where we're like, oh, that was a confine, and we're going to evolve even deeper later.
Yeah. Oh, that's so awesome. That's a very hopeful message as well for our listeners. So really quick, where can people find you? I know that your website is a little bit different than the skincare and
Well,
stuff.
you can type in both and you'll get to the same place, belanektar.com or bellagusta.com. So Bella Gusta is kind of like the lifestyle of Béla Nektar. So,
Gotcha.
it's like the delectableness of the quantum essence of everything. So BELAGUSTA, Bellagusta.com or BellaNektar.com. We'll get
All
you there.
right. Perfect. So for those of you driving, she spelled it out for you. For everyone else, the links will be in the show notes for you
Exactly.
to have easy access to those. And yeah, Laura, do you want to add any thank you
Yeah.
for Lauren
Yeah.
today?
Lauren, first of all, thanks for your time.
Yes.
You've been so gracious with us. And just a few things. One is just thank you for never giving up on your own
Oh,
health. You could have, right?
thank
There's
you.
these
Oh,
things
yeah.
called need and everything else, and you that journey it was a hero's journey. And
Oh, yes.
yes, and now look at you, you're helping so many others.
Thank you.
Thanks for infusing full spectrum, I'm going to say everything into into skincare and facial creams, and the
Yeah.
balms and everything. I love that you mentioned, you know, it starts with inner beauty,
Mhm.
inner beauty and that relationship with outer beauty. So many women and young girls need to hear that message.
Yeah.
Something you said today, I had to just copy, and I was like, oh, quote this: the body knows how to get back to the original blueprint. It does not
Yes.
need the breadcrumbs. That was just,
Oh, good. I should
explosion
write that
there.
down too.
Yeah, well, I can send it to you. Yeah, it was brilliant.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
sure
It's very true. It's
very
very
just
true.
we're downloading that. And thank
Mhm.
you for really in this episode, and I think with everything you do, you're shifting the paradigm that healing involves just the physical, that it's so much more, that we need everything from mineral, metabolic, circadian balance, and the conscious awareness.
Yeah.
And you've talked, I don't know that you mentioned it so much today, but I've heard you talk about optimizing energetic coherence.
Yeah,
And
well, that's kind of the sum total of it, right?
isn't it?
Like coherence, I think the word quantum, is a buzzword, and I'm trying to be like, it's coherence, it's coherence. All of it is coherence, right? Like when iron chaperones copper, that's coherent. When you have a masculine and a feminine relationship, that's coherent, whether it's a relationship inside of you with your masculine and your feminine, or it's outside of you in some
Mhm.
way, right? All of it is coherence at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That was my word for 2025.
Oh, really? That's
Yeah.
amazing. I love that.
That's gonna be hard to figure out one that beats that for 2026. Might
Right?
have to
Yes.
continue it. We'll see.
Yes. Oh
You'll
my gosh, I
figure it
love
out
that.
in the sessions with Lauren. You'll figure it out.
Maybe there's a good point.
Yes.
And just two more points that you talk about us being the master and the
Yes.
masterpiece, and how we can.
That's the biggest shift I think that one can make. And that's like the biggest nugget that I can bring back from my crazy Shadowland, dark forest trek. You are the master. You are the masterpiece simultaneously.
Brilliant. Oh, Lauren, you're so fascinating. That's the word that's coming up over and over for me. And we were so excited to interview you today. So just thanks for being you. Thanks for
Oh,
being here
thank
with
you
us.
so much, Laura
Yeah.
and Dia. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you, Lauren. And thank you, everyone, for listening. You made it to the end of the episode. Thanks for hanging in there.
Yeah.
We will see you next time.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you for sticking around to the end of this podcast. We want to thank our sponsor, Viva Rays, who allows for us to get this information to you. They offer top of the line blue blocking glasses, which, as we know, are critical for our health these days for blocking artificial light at night. Over 90% of our time is spent indoors under artificial lights, and this puts us all prone to circadian rhythm disruption. You can use the code Quantum Healthy for a discount. Link is in the show notes.
Thank you so much for listening to the Quantum Healthy podcast. We hope you found some value in this information. And if you feel inspired, please share it and leave us a 5-star review. This will help us reach so many more people. If you want to connect with Laura, you can find her at laurakistmanwellness.com and Ndia at ndiaray.com. Links are below in the show notes. Now, go find some sunlight and embrace your own quantum healthy.